I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, March the 6th, brought to you in part by Macrocin. Macrocin is proven efficacy at an affordable upfront price. Without the BS, end of story. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards, the cattle just keep coming, guys. Expecting 9,000 head for the regular Monday feeder cattle auction. Be a lot of wintered backgrounded cattle there that'll be good for feeding, good condition there. It's just amazing to me that they keep coming. I know they're going to shut off at some point, and I know we keep saying that. Of course, people are selling them to each other. You know, the market's going up so much. If a guy's held some cattle for, you know, a month or 6 weeks and thinks he's got a chance to make as much money as he had hoped to make full term, he's likely going to sell them, although you can't replace them. But anyway, a good run for Joplin Regional Stockyards. And don't forget, Wednesday they got a special cow and bull sale. Be March the 8th. It'll be after their way up sale starting at 4:30 in the afternoon. Packers lose ground but win the battle. And they haven't won a lot of battles here over the last few months during this market rally. They did win the battle in the Southern Plains. Southern Plains were bound and determined to get 166. They did not get 166, and they did sell some cattle, especially in Kansas, quite a few, at 165. They had to remain current, and that's another thing that the feeders can do to lose this rally. One thing is sell too many cattle out front, 2 to 4 weeks, and another thing they can do is get behind, and they got to stay current on their marketings. And so they went ahead and sold the cattle enough to stay current. Didn't move a lot of cattle. Your packers are still going to be extremely short bought, and likely they pulled a lot of contracts. So as we move on through the month, I think we're going to be able to gain more ground, even though your spot live cattle and your June live cattle don't show that or don't expect it. But I just wonder, you know, if they have anything to do with this market or not. But the Packers did lose ground, as if they're trying to keep the market down, because your market was higher again, mostly in the Northern Plains. And, you know, we sold cattle from 163 to 167, but your market was mostly 165. That's higher in the Northern Plains. But the heck of it is, most all your Northern Plains cattle are selling on a dress basis. And that's where the deal is. The dress market is way better than the live market. And, you know, we couldn't get guys there, couldn't get the Packers to give a live bid here several weeks ago whenever we were fighting the worst of the mud because of so much tag on there. And so your Packers were wanting everybody to take dress bids. Well, now the dress bids are way better than the live bids. So you look at the market at 265 for the most part. That's awfully good dress basis, guys. Most of your cattle are probably not this time of year. You're always going to have some tag in the Northern Plains. Those cattle are not going to be better than 63 and a half. You know, that's better than what your cash market is. You know, that's 168 and a quarter. If you'd happen to get some cattle dressed 64%, that's going to be getting close to 170. But your cattle just won't do that. Maybe some cattle that are fed in a barn on slats, it'd be clean. Those cattle could dress 64%. Fat helps cattle dress. Fill does not help cattle dress. Tag does not help cattle dress. Your weighing conditions have a lot to do with that too. But you know, even some cattle that just dress 63 at that 265 market, that's better than what you're going to get live basis. So maybe your Southern Plains guys should go to that, because in the Southern Plains your cattle are all clean. They haven't had any moisture, any mud to deal with at all. They don't have a lot of hair to capture that anyway. And so the cattle are going to dress a lot better, even though in the most cases they're not as fat. But you know, maybe they could talk the Packers into giving them 263 dressed in the Southern Plains. That'd be a hell of a lot better than what they're getting bid on a live basis. That'd be 168 and change there, guys. But just kind of keep a watch on that. But your Packers did have to give up a little bit more market, but they did win that all-important battle in the Southern Plains. Southern Plains hadn't sold any cattle for 2 weeks, and they ended up having to sell them at 165, which is more than what they got the last time that they sold, so they're still gaining ground, but they were really convinced to get 166, and they indeed did not end up getting that. They'll shoot for more money again this week. Something to listen for here on Monday. It's big news coming from U.S. Cattlemen's Association, and partly due to them and their petition back in 2019, but also some other groups and a lot of outspoken people, and I had nothing to do with it, but including me, I was outspoken on this too. But it looks like the USDA is going to recommend that we get rid of the loophole that is allowing product of the USDA to be put on beef that is not. So that's truth in labeling, guys. That is fantastic. Is it mandatory, cool, country of origin label? No, it's not. And we've talked about that before. But if we could close that loophole where cattle that are coming in from outside the United States cannot be end up having a product of USA label, and also beef coming in in bigger wholesale cuts cannot come in and then be further processed and end up getting the product of USA label. A lot of that Brazilian product that we're fearful of because of BSE, because of they just don't stand up to the standards that we have here in this country. But that could be a game changer, guys. Could be a big game changer, just depending. It could change up the way that we sell some of these Mexican cattle that have just pretty much been going right along, and most everybody sells on a sweetheart deal that feeds those Mexican cattle. It could really change things quite a bit. But supposed to get an announcement here on Monday about that. They would have to open up a comment period and things like that, but it's looking like we could get that done, guys, and that is big, and I want to give congratulations to U.S. Cattlemen's Association for playing a big role in getting that done. Let's talk about your board for last week. Your April live cattle futures, Monday was down 20, Tuesday was up $2.50, Wednesday down 35 cents, Thursday down $1.02, Friday back up 132, ending up with your April live cattle, ending the week at 165.42, and that was up a nickel for the week. June ended the week at 160.67. March feeder cattle, Monday was up 10, Tuesday was up 62, Wednesday was down $1.50, Thursday was up 27, and Friday up 142. Both live cattle and feeder cattle futures were up big on Friday. And your March feeder cattle ended the week at 190 even. That was up 93 cents for the week. April all the way up to 196.02 to end the week last week, and that was up $2.45. March corn, very volatile, and it lost a lot of ground through the week, but for the week it only ended up down 4 3/4 cents at 6.45 1/4. Beans for March, 15.30 1/2, up 1.5 cents a bushel there, and your all-important December corn ended the week at 5.71, which sounds pretty reasonable compared to what been paying here. Let's talk about your fat cattle market. We touched on it a little bit when I give you the details here. Through Thursday of last week, we had only sold 20,900 head. We had significant movement on Friday, so we're going to have a decent movement negotiated on fat cattle, but live sales, fat steers and heifers last week ranged in price from 163 to 166 up through Thursday, with a weighted average live steer of 164.84, and that was up less than $1. But your dress steers and heifers, like I said, that's where your bulk of your movement was, and all in the northern plains, was from 262 to 265. Heavy on the 265 late in the week. That was $2 to $5 higher. Your dressed weighted average on steers was 262.54 up through Thursday. It's going to be a lot better than that by the time we get everything rounded up and I give it to you on our next visit. But that was up about $1.50 for the week. So those are good gains there. And then Friday, your market was even better, and we'd had pretty significant trade. Iowa sold 8,500 head on Friday, 23,700 head for the week. Your Friday sales ranged the full gamut from 163.5 all the way to 167, and we hadn't seen 167. Your dress sales from 263 to 265, heavy on the 265, and I told you what a good market that is. Some cattle that would really dress, or a lot of people call it yield, but I don't like to call it yield because you get that confused with yield grade. Dressing percentage is what I'm talking about. If you get a dressing percentage up around 64, you're getting a hell of a price for your fat cattle back on a live basis. Nebraska, 11,600 head on Friday, 15,400 head for the week. 163 to 165 was the live price. Dress price 262 to mostly 265. Kansas, 14,100 head on Friday. Like I said, pretty good movement, and they only moved less than 16,000 for the week. So that was the bulk of what they did was on Friday. And pretty much all the cattle bring 165. Like I said, we were disappointed we didn't get the 166, but got 165. They had a few dress sales in northern Kansas, 262 to 265. Texas sold 4,200 head, which is extremely light movement, and that's all they moved for the week was the 4,200. A few direct live sales at 165. The best price that was paid in the Southern Plains on Friday was on the Fed Cattle Exchange. They had cattle that were put on there and put with a reserve at 165, and they sold cattle on the Fed Cattle Exchange online auction from 165.25 to 165.5. We hoped that would catch on and maybe we'd see some more 165.5. But that wasn't a really good bargaining spot there. And so we just had a few guys that really needed to sell some cattle to stay current in Texas. They sold them at the 165. Still hard pressed at 166 late in the week. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they don't step that up another buck here as we go into this week. But, imagine selling things at auction and getting competition and getting a higher price. Been doing it for over 2,000 years, guys, at auction. Talk about your box beef cutout values. Gain ground for the week, especially on select, and that choice select spread is pretty narrow right now, especially considering that we are getting ready to get into grilling season, just now getting warm enough to go back on the patio and cook a steak. But choice cuts, your weighted average on all of last week's sales was $288.59. That was up $1.95. And late in the week, it was less than $1 higher than that, not quite $290, $289.32, but that's a lot better than it was just several weeks ago. Select weighted average on all of last week's sales was $277.87. That was up $4.78 compared to the weighted average from the previous week. And at the end of the week, it was about a buck off of that on late Friday sales at $276.86. But that choice select spread is less than $11. Just a moderate movement. We don't get to see a whole lot of spot trade there on box beef cutouts, but only 443 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Talk about what else is going on. Rec Agra is Mark Rec, and he sells ranch real estate there and has a listing, a really stick out listing that you guys need to listen to and you might want to pay attention to. Tell your friends, tell somebody that might be interested in this. The Condon Ranch, that is near Sterling, Colorado, right on I-76 there. It's one of the largest privately owned ranches in northeast Colorado. Bill Condon assembled that over 82 years, put together over 19,000 acres there. It's been well managed. You look at the grass, they've savored that grass there. You look at the good grass that they have. You look at the outstanding facilities that they have around there. and they're going to offer that ranch there several ways. They're going to offer it as keeping the whole deal together, one deal, or offer it as much as just over 1,000 acres per lot. But if you're interested in the Condon Ranch and you want to talk to them or just get more details about it, get a hold of Mark Reck at Reck Agri. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction late in the week, ended the week at 188.02 based on a cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states. That was up $3.95 compared to the end of last week. Your CME cash feeder cattle index has been lagging way behind here, especially as we've been gaining so much ground, but they did finally gain some ground there. Latest available is 185.43, but like I said, your up-to-date and accurate real-time index sitting just over 188 based on an 800-pound cash steer. That's a heck of a price, but you look at some of these 7-weight stockers are bringing, it's influencing that. And like I say, your cash feeder cattle last week in your sales and calves sold from steady to $5 higher. So steady to $5 higher, but we were on the top end of that. But stocker type cattle were sharply higher. Some instances as much as $15 higher. I'm talking about old crop, kind of calf weight yearlings there that have a lot of go-to, a lot of compensatory gain. It must be March, right? And if guys have cattle like that, hard wintered, ready to just turn a flip whenever we do get some green grass, which is right around the corner, guys. But those stocker cattle are just going crazy right now, and guys are looking heavier on your stockers too, because feed and all types of forage have been so high that even weighing well into the 7s, they're going to be turning those cattle out on grass and not going to be concerned at all if they come off that grass heavy. It's just going to be that much cheaper to finish those cattle out. But your Zoetis stick out sale of the day was from your Saturday sale at Fort Scott, Kansas, there at Fort Scott Livestock Market. Over 3,000 head for their good Saturday sale. Look at your automated market report from Cattle Market Central. You see your best tested weights. How about 275 head of 7-weight steers, the average 752, weighted average price of 188.94. 845 head of 8-weight steers, averaged 848, weighted average price 184.06. That was almost $9 higher on the weighted average compared to the previous week, guys. Look at some heifers. 278 head of 6-weight heifers in Fort Scott, Kansas, averaged 652 with a weighted average price of 183.20. That was like $8 higher compared to the weighted average from the previous week. 351 head of 7-weight heifers, averaged 753 with a weighted average price of 176.57, about $5 higher in your weighted average. Really good sale in Fort Scott, Kansas on Saturday. Give you some top quotes, and I mean they were easy to find this time. Some really stick out quotes late last week and over the weekend. How about Montana livestock auction in Ramsey, Montana? 65 steers weighed 505 at $2.68 a pound. Way up in Montana, guys. That's a big time quote. How about Bluegrass Stockyards in Richmond, Kentucky? What can Jim Doss get for some at his sale barn there in Kentucky, his Bluegrass location? How about 59 head of steers, weighed 799, same as 800 pounds, way out in Kentucky at $189. My goodness. How about Magnus Livestock Market, Huron, South Dakota? 57 steers, weighed 897. That's 900 pounds, guys, at $190. But the most impressive quote that I saw late last week or over the weekend in your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, Wahoo Livestock Sales, Wahoo, Nebraska, 54 steers, weighed 760 pounds at $208.50. Wahoo! That's your feeder flash for Monday.